Please go to seat. Right up next to us. Glad you can make it.
With the legs.
Recording.
Yes.
Call the meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Great turnout. We may even have some more coming in yet, but there is a sign-in sheet going around. Front and back. If the name's not on the front, check the back. If it's not on it altogether, sign it in anyway. Introductions. I'm Dale Stein, Chair.
Bethany Bizdu, Executive Director.
Scott Ryan, NYCD voting rep.
Darren Hickling, New York Farm Bureau voting rep.
Dave Rath, voting number, fake money.
I'm Gail Edwards. I'm the policy fellow with the youth committee.
I'm an program analyst with the state committee.
Vernon Jordan, CNFB Structural from State Committee.
Andrew Emmer, Region 2 Associate Environmental Analyst.
Tim Clark, I'm the engineer for the state committee.
Theo Aguilar, Protection Unit.
Tony Giacomo, DEC, Finger Lakes Off.
Lauren Townley, DEC Division of Water, Albany.
Ron Bush, CNMP Specialist for the State Committee.
Victor Giacomo, State Committee Field Staff for Western New York.
Stafford Farm, Region 2, Ryan Cunningham, state committee.
Askelson, Yates County Soil and Water.
Cochran, Red County, Southern Water. And it's in water.
Gary Baxter, Region County Soil and Water.
Housekeeping 5AA, state committee. Here's Erie County Soil and Water.
Missed you.
Link number, fake on.
Water. Administrative.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. Glad we can finally get together and see each other without having to look at a screen. And hopefully we'll have a lot better participation. One thing we have lacking, and others have told me too, during when we're doing all these, we don't have people speak up and talk so much. And we need that if we're going to accomplish what we need to do. Thank you. Review and approve minutes. Any additions or corrections? Not motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Go to voting.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Thank you. Correspondence, Bethany?
We do not have any correspondence to present to the state committee today. I will just say since we're all kind of spread out here this morning, if anybody can't hear in the back, just let us know and we'll speak up. And then another, I guess, housekeeping item I'll just mention, there are restrooms on this floor straight through those turnstiles, or you can go downstairs to the first level. That's all. Thank you.
There is one other thing I wanted to bring up. Brian Steinmiller couldn't be here today. His mom is in hospice, not doing well. So please keep Brian's mom, Brian and family in your prayers. Next on our agenda is Ag Non-Point Source, Bethany and Tyler.
I'll let you take the, yep, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Bethany. So real quick, I'm just gonna go over some program updates, quick dashboard of what we have for contracts in the Ag Point right now. Bear with us, technology has been fun this morning. All right, great, thanks. So right now, 8 active rounds in Ag Mountain Point, 373 total contracts across all of those rounds. And those are valued at just over $121 million. Pending contracts, round 28, I believe is still pending. So we'll have those out soon, hopefully.
Coming along.
And those are valued at just over $13 million. Right now, total active contracts across all of the rounds is 155. There were a couple closeouts the last month, so there's some updates there. Those active contracts are valued at $55.4 million. And were some of those completions, 172 completed contracts across those rounds, and that's roughly 51.4 million. That is all on my end, unless anybody has questions.
Any updates on round 21?
So those 2 closeouts are in progress. Is, I guess, the biggest update I can give you, and,
Okay. Well, just so
should be closed
if
out
they
as
are
soon
going to
as
close out, then
possible. Yep. Oh, so the next part would be, the Agnon Point Source, amendments. We have 1 time extension amendment to present to the group today. It is included in your packet of materials that, was distributed around the room. This, time extension amendment was submitted by Allegheny County for a round 25 contract. The current contract end date was February 20th of this year, and they are looking for a 1-year time extension to February 20th of 2024. COVID and financial uncertainties that happened after COVID have caused the farms to delay implementation of the projects. Farms involved in this contract are now moving forward. 1 farm has, in fact, completed all of their practices. There's a second farm that's approximately 25% done with their waste storage and transfer system. However, that farm ran out of good weather to continue implementing in the fall of 2022 in order to complete their storage. So they're on scheduled to restart once weather allows in the spring. And there is a third farm in this contract that has plans in place to get their projects completed this year as well. This extension was reviewed and is supported by Victor DiGiacomo, Region 1 AEA, but referred to the state committee. Is there any other information you want to include with this one, Vic?
I thought you summed that up pretty well. I guess I'll just say this is their first extension request, and the district feels pretty confident that both farms will work with them and complete their projects this year.
Any questions or comments, anyone? Motion, please. Second?
Second.
Go to voting. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Thank you.
So real quick as well, I'll just give a very brief update on, as Tyler said, round 28 contracts for the Ag Non-Point Source Program are still pending, but they are starting to move and be sent out to districts for review and signature. I think we're maybe not quite halfway there with the total number of contracts that have been sent out to districts, but they're moving along, and hopefully, within the next couple of months, we'll have everything fully executed. Round 29 is currently open for districts to apply to for projects. A week or so ago, we posted the first question and answer document. So if districts have any questions regarding the RFP or eligible projects, they need to be submitted to me in writing by the deadline. And we're looking to the deadline for application submittal is June 26th.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions on Bethany or Tyler? Next, CRF. Tyler.
So So similar dashboard to Ag Not Point Source, so CR 5 active rounds, across your 5 rounds, roughly $18.2 million, and that's across 141 contracts. Right now, roughly 8.4 pending for round 6, similar situation. And those are for 36 contracts. Active contract amount, roughly $6 million, and that's across 58 contracts. Completed contracts, they're working out over the last month or so, and we have completed amount of $2.7 million, and that's across 35 contracts. Any questions on the data side?
Amendments?
So Jennifer Clifford is on her way, just not quite here yet. I don't believe we do have any amendments for this meeting. Abigail, if there's anything to update, and then maybe when Jennifer is able to make it, she can.
We'll go back to it.
Sure, I can provide a quick update. Round 6 plans of work that have been submitted to us have all been reviewed, and they're currently with our fiscal department to develop the contracts. Round 7 RFP was released, and Jennifer hosted the Round 7 RFP webinar yesterday. And that video recording will be posted on the SharePoint for anyone who is unable to attend. And the Q&A is open. Please send any questions formally submitted to Jennifer Clifford, and her email is jennifer.clifford@agriculture.ny.gov. And if you have any questions, I'm sure Jennifer will be able to answer those when she gets here, because I don't think I will be able to answer them.
Any questions on CR app, anybody? Right, we'll check back on amendments when Jennifer arrives. We'll go to the construction stormwater general permit, and while Greg's not here, Ron?
So we've had kind of a moving target here with some work with DEC and others on the construction stormwater general permit. The briefing I'm going to give you today, Greg Albrecht was going to do it, but he had a conflicting schedule. So we'll just highlight some of the work we've been doing in preparation for kind of a full presentation and development and action from the state committee on what our roles are and what that information is being presented, hopefully in the May meeting. So we're still going on, doing some ongoing work there. So I'm just going to read a couple notes here. We've been working with districts, and they kind of seen some of this and some of the updates. Everything that we're going to talk about both today, helping with districts and other folks, as well as the farmers, and what's relayed next month, isn't new stuff to the stormwater permit. It's more of just clarification. Okay. So there's a partnership of DEC Stormwater, DEC CAPO folks, our regional inspectors, staff, and some of us at Ag and Markets and the state committee that have been working on a DEC supplement. We can call it kind of a guidance document, but it's a supplement document for agricultural conservation practices as they relate to the SPD's general permit for stormwater discharges from construction activity. General permit 020-001. This has been something we've been looking at this winter, early spring, and like I said, it's ongoing. We at the department and this team have provided a draft and in-depth updates to the soil and water districts, NRCS, and planners during the water quality symposium, as well as a webinar on March 30th. So, you know, if you haven't seen those or you want some of that information, we can still help you along, get that information in its draft form. Based on the outreach and the help we've gotten from everyone, we've incorporated, you know, those ideas and presenting this clarification and this information in that draft. And we thank everyone that has helped us with that, folks that have had experience with working with the general permit, developing stormwater pollution prevention plans, different types of BMPs, as well as interacting with some of the farmers and some of the work they do. This is kind of linked to, you know, we spend a lot of time looking at this because some of the work is really linked to the BMPs that we do. Most farmers and a lot of the stuff that's happening on the farms can be brought to those from our conservation practices. So knowing you know, what we need to do with each one of those type of practices and what triggers needing a permit or certain types of BMPs, a SWIP. That's kind of what we're after here. The working draft for DEC supplement is currently under review by DEC staff and council. We've gotten some feedback from them that they're going to make some changes to that to make sure it fits the way they want that information presented. Once again, this is all a supplement guidance document to go with that stormwater general permit. So all of your crucial information is in that. Another reason why it links to us is the general stormwater permit has our ag BMP catalog, something you guys have seen before. It's used as kind of a guidance and reference document, specifically table 2, where we look at all of those BMPs from NRCS and see where, you know, are they ground disturbing? Are they in the farmstead? Or are they more associated with crop production? Is there exemptions for some of this work? And what's really triggering when you need to look at those in a different lens and get permit coverage and maintain that permit. So once we get everything squared away, one of the things we'll be bringing to you guys is an updated catalog with the guidance document that is vetted through this kind of ad hoc team in DEC. And it will, you know, the districts and anyone using these will have that for that clarification to know when they need to seek permit coverage. So in the meantime, this is also really important because even though the changes haven't been, they aren't changes, this clarification, there's a lot of projects that are going to be starting, you know, right now that already have been awarded grants. There's work that farmers may be doing on their own, as well as our upcoming Ag 9.0 Source, CRF, and other cost share programs, even NRCS programs. So we want to know that the DC is still expected to get permit coverage for these type of practices that would trigger that. So there's enough information out there in that stormwater permit, tons of information. The guidance document will help. And for right now, we would direct most folks to Dave Gasper at DEC for questions directly related to the permit coverage for upcoming BMP projects this spring and summer. That's what I have for everyone. You know, I think we can do some work, AEAs and us doing some work on the side for quick guidance with folks as well. So anyone else on the team want to add anything that may have been left out? Knowing once again, we're going to camp on this and have a presentation for the group, hopefully next month.
Yeah, Ron, was that webinar we did recorded?
I can't remember. We'll if someone wants it, just email me and we'll try to find it. It's not recorded. We'll just give you the help that you.
Any questions for Ron, comments?
Probably, for sure. That's one thing that, this is one reason why it's important to make sure that we know what we need to do, get everything kind of squared away, because the costs of those based on your project and your disturbance can vary greatly. So you could have developing a stormwater pollution prevention plan, a SWIP, a notice of intent, permit fees vary based on your project. If it's really large and you're disturbing larger acres of land. So, you know, some of those costs will be there, as well as some of the engineering costs for post-construction activities if they're warranted. And you need qualified inspectors to, you know, check on that work site during implementation. So there's definitely, we want to make sure that, you know, if that information is in there, especially going forward, if you know your project's going to trigger those, you certainly want to make sure that those fees are, you know, accounted for, they're anticipated, and see who's, you know, is it landowner cost share? Is it something we're going to cost share? That's what we'll make sure we have going forward.
Thank you for the update. Is there a rough estimate for the finalization permit?
The permit is final, so you can go on the DEC website right now. That's totally gonna stay the way it is. So you can go through there, see everything right there. What we're doing is really enhancing the clarification that was in our Ag BMP catalog. Because they cited us as a guidance document, a reference document. And it was really outdated. It had things in there that we don't even call stuff anymore. We, you know, folks didn't really know what was ground disturbing, what was exempt. There's exemptions to agricultural activities. So we wanted to make sure that we had those clarified specifically as they relate to, you'll see in the BMP catalog, NRCS BMPs will be categorized if they're associated with crop production or if they're structural practices in the farmstead that would fall under a different disturbance criteria. And a lot of our folks, the district folks and others, and our engineers, they know all about this stuff. So it's not like we're bringing out a whole bunch of new things. They know what it is. It's just clarification on how far and the specific details for each project on each one. Any questions? Last questions? Okay. I yield my time.
We're running quite a bit ahead of schedule. Next on our list is Blake. You have plenty of time, Blake.
I decided to just print out things rather than. I only printed out 30, but I forgot there was food involved. Forgot what kind of group would show up with their food involved? So, those that don't know me, I'm Blake Glover. I'm the state conservationist for NRCS, located out in Syracuse. Thank you to the committee for having me today. I wanted to just take a few minutes to go over the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed into law in 2022. And now we're moving forward and trying to implement that. I know that it's kind of talked about the CRF today, state, and want to see where we can partner on some of these practices forward from a climate standpoint. The IRA funding that we receive will be for climate activities. And as you can see in the handouts, probably not, probably didn't reach everybody today, but I'll make sure Bethany gets the electronic copy. So, IRA funding, what that means for NRCS as a whole, $20 million on top of the farm bill. We'll just talk about EQIP. So for EQIP alone, for an agency standpoint, we'll receive $8.45 billion just for EQIP on top of the farm bill. And so out of that $20 billion we receive, the contracts that we write will have to be expended by September 30th, 2031. So nothing beyond that date can move forward because we don't have any authority to work on IRA beyond 2031. So there'll be a big push for us. Obviously, we're in the hiring phase right now and trying to hire folks, trying not to steal anybody from all of our partners moving forward, but we're looking for the brightest out there to help us out. Moving down to the spreadsheet there, that kind of breaks down what New York will receive, what IRA will receive, what NRCS will receive for IRA funding in 23, 24, 25, and 26. So 23 wasn't bad for us. On top of what we receive on the Farm Bill program side, we'll just stick with EQIP. I think everybody understands EQIP a little bit in this room. So for EQIP in 2023, I received $15 million for obligated purposes. From an IRA standpoint, we received an additional $2 million for EQIP. And then as you move into 24, we'll receive $13 million in IRA funding, on top of $15 million regular EQIP funding that we receive. So you can see where I stay up late at night trying to think about how we're going to get these funds out the door, how we're going to work with partners to move this forward on top of 2031, and it's all said and done. And as the Farm Bill talks continue to happen, there's a push to make IRA a part of the Farm Bill. Right now, IRA is not a line item in the budget. It's just been appropriated for the 10 years or so that it exists. So we'll see if that gets put into the Farm Bill. I know that there's a lot of lobbyists trying to do that now. We have to do RCS, but we'll see. And who knows if this continues on, what that means for NRCS and the Farm Bill moving forward. If Congress says that, NRCS is receiving X amount of dollars through 2026, they don't need conservation title efforts in the Farm Bill 2024 Farm Bill. So we'll see what that means for us. The writing is still on the wall for that. So as you can see, $22 million, that surpasses what we do in Farm Bill funding. And then 26 is $26 million in EQIP. That really surpasses, almost doubles what we received in EQIP Farm Bill funding in those years. And then 27 to 31, no funding, but we still have to administer those contracts through those days. So we have some administrative funds that we receive to administer those funds along the way. And as you can see, I won't spend a lot of time on CSP, RCBP, and our easement program. RCP and easements are run at the national office level for this year. We'll see where that rolls moving forward into FY 24 and beyond. We're thinking that money will be pushed down to the state, so that'll be a heavy lift for us as well. So all in all, if you look at the totals down there, for IRA funding alone, New York will receive $45 million just in IRA funding in 4 years. That's not including our Farm Bill. I keep saying that. That's not including our Farm Bill dollars that we'll receive. So we're in the hiring process, heavily trying to gain partners and others that can help us out in these funds. And we will look at other practices that have been off the table, like cap and flare. I think we'll have an opportunity to bring those back on the table for us. I know there may be some rumors out there already that we're going to move forward with that, but we haven't figured out how to move forward with that and be equitable in our funds. So look forward to that discussion with the group down the road. I would like to get in front of the group, say August or so, and we'll have some more definite numbers on where we're heading with IRA into 24. And then the last 2 pages there, it will show the list of practices. So it gets a little confusing. Federal government is not always easy. So how will NRCS address climate through the IRA funding? The left side of that spreadsheet lists all the practices that can be core practice, primary practice. So a producer comes in, Dale comes in, and he says he wants to do cover crop. He can qualify for IRA, and then they can also do all the other suites of practices that are included in NRCS. If he selects cover crop, if he doesn't select cover crop and he comes in, he can't do these other suite of practices through IRA because he did not select a core practice that NRCS has identified. And so you have some learning to do at the field level on this as well, but that will complicate things a little bit. From a Farm Bill standpoint, Dale could come in and says he wants to do something other than cover crop, and he can move through the system with an application. But from an IRA standpoint, it will require him to select one of these 40 practices to even be considered for funding moving forward. So there's 40 practices that were identified, not by me or the state. It was identified by NRCS at the national office level. So across the country, these are the 40 practices that NRCS will administer across the country in every state. So where do we go from here? Obviously, it's coming. Money's coming. Got to be prepared for staffing, and then how do we get the money on the ground to producers around the state? I think there's opportunities there for us to work together, and hopefully Caitlin get in front of the employee association so they understand where we're headed as well. But I appreciate the opportunity today to kind of show where we're headed with IRA on top of Farm Bill funding, but also if there's any questions from the audience or the committee that I can answer today as well.
Do you have a target number of staff that you're trying to?
Yeah, so right now, so NRCS sits about 155 or so, and we're going to increase that number by 50. We think we can afford about 100, 120 or so extra, but there's a game we have to play with this, guys. this money doesn't last forever, right? And so you can't staff to 120, then come 26, you're still staffed at that high level. And that money starts dropping and dropping. You can't afford employees, then you're into the RIF part. So we're trying to be in the middle on that, and hopefully we can gain some partners to help us out as well with some of those stuff. Because if we don't staff up to that level, we have additional funds that we can utilize with partners to do this work. So that's why I want to get in front of the employee association and others that can grab onto this money along with helping NRCS out and the policers out down there. Right now it's 50. Let's see if we get to 75. Well, in the graces of a face-to-face meeting, I did not look at that number. So that's a mistake. NRCS or New York is not receiving any dollars in IRA or RCPP. So apologize for that. Absolutely. So as I said, RCPP for right now, there will be a national announcement for RCPP, not a state announcement. And so those folks that are interested in RCPP and working with NRCS can apply to that national announcement. Now they're going to be equitable in how they do that. One state's not going to get it all kind of thing. If I have partners that are spending for RCPP, there's a likelihood that we can get some funding from that.
Like, I see a lot of increased costs in projects with police storage facilities, digesters, different other players. Does this money fall into the same wrap for farming for the farm bill? We're getting a lot more money, $450,000.
Yeah, so this does fall within that $450,000 cap per contract or per farm bill that is produced for the received. So that's the talk to, right? And then on top of that, what we're paying for practice is also a talk right now as well, and see how we can use those funding levels. But as far as the payment limitations, those are a congressional thing that NRCS cannot do.
On the third page, the forest improvement, I expect within 2 years, we should have some opening from the district, some fairly significant ideas on reforestation and afforestation.
Yep.
And we're going to be looking, at least we're hoping to be able to finance a lot of that across the state. There's 1 million acres we can reforest if we can figure out how to get it done, to viably get it done. So I'm hoping we can use some of that funds to do some projects to the districts. So we're reaching out to districts. We want viable projects that districts can figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, on forestry, guys, we're not hitting the mark as an agency on the forested acres that we set aside for allocation. So it'd be beneficial that we try to see where we can target that. Well,
Yeah, you can't do it overnight. You can't
No.
just throw out 50 million seedlings and
Yeah.
expect one to live.
that's right.
You gotta have projects that figure out how to get it going.
Yeah.
Widespread. We're hoping the districts are gonna lead the way and do it. We'll help pay for it with your help.
Yep, absolutely. Well, give you a start. Good.
Are you planning on having a local working group meetings?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So the reason why I was late, I was opening up our training for local work groups within our CS today. So they are getting trained up on local work groups, and we plan to have those this summer for the FY22 allocations that we receive. And so be on the lookout for that. I'll make sure the committee gets it along with CPDA as well. That way we can get as many folks there that can provide us input on how to be locally led. That's a big push for me. We haven't done that within our CS since I've been here. And before I was here as well, It's been a long push, and I'm glad we're here to where we can hold these local work groups and identify local resource concerns that can address those funding levels at the field level, not I'm making those decisions. Thank you for bringing that up.
I said cover and fire funding might come back.
Yeah.
Would that be frequent or?
Well, it'll be through IRA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That'll be a state students.
Yes. Yes, we've been throwing it around along with some other practices that will allow us to utilize this funding in such a way that it's not a big lift for us, but can get the funding out.
I think you'll have to look at matches with state program CRM.
Yeah.
Because the cost is getting so high.
Yep.
And especially if they haven't done separation ahead of time, the cost is gonna be astronomical. So we need to probably match the two programs together to really accomplish something.
So there's been some initial discussions with some of the folks at NRCS, and a lot of times we're working with the same producers. We're working essentially on the same resource concerns. But how do we train up districts and NRCS folks to know that what will this program pay for? What will this one pay for? And how do you tee that up and where can they work together and where do they need to be separate? So a lot of times it might be like this part of practice from IRA or something like that, EQIP, they might be tied to an RMS treatment level or resource concern planning criteria. And they can address that with the system, but maybe not some of the other stuff. So like, where do we draw those lines and where do we really try to bring those two things together? And especially with some of the new work we're doing with separating solids and storages, and are we doing something here, but not doing a total cover and flare yet? Where do those lines work and where can we get some of this work done? So that's confusing even for us that spend every day looking at those things. So more to come, we're going to be setting up some meetings.
We are entering exciting times.
Absolutely,
Holy moly, there's an awful lot of money coming out.
absolutely.
The $1 billion for conservation technical, is that gonna be like TSP subcontracting
It could be.
type stuff?
It's also staffing. It's also staffing.
Direct staffing.
Yeah. Direct staffing, partnerships, all those things kind of rolled into one for us. Yeah. Absolutely. I know it's a lot to digest, but hopefully come August timeframe after we get some decent numbers from an NRCS standpoint, we can get back in front of the group and do a bigger presentation on how to move forward.
We generally don't have an August meeting, but we'll work
September.
something.
Yeah. And if, I don't know who in the group, are working on capital flares or other things that we can discuss, I can get you in touch with the folks that NRCS, so we can at least get started on that conversation on how to work together in the forestry part too. I'm on board.
Yep. Right now it's Val, Dollar,
Yeah.
Paula Bagley,
Yeah.
those folks.
Okay.
And then using like a tool you guys recently saw, our readiness tool for storages and covering flares. How can that information go to you guys and you guys build that in to know which producers are, ready to do certain things? It's really just a collaboration and teamwork and approach for that.
So just don't send anybody to our offices on Captain Flare. We had 2 people show up to our offices in Captain
Right.
Flare. Yeah, and we were just discussing it internally. We're not even sure how it got out. We're not ready yet. Just got us. But 24 will be the. Anything else, guys? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. For anyone that doesn't know, we built a satellite storage with full liner and then cut capped and flared it. Just finishing the flares now. It was 640,000, the whole project. So they are very, very expensive. Time you look at the whole thing. So we need to match programs in order to be able to accomplish this. Great. We're going to go back to CRF. Because Jennifer, you can introduce yourself, please.
Yes, great, thank you. I apologize for being so late. Jennifer Clifford, I'm the CRM program manager. I'm with the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee and Ag Markets, and we just opened up round 7. We just released the RFP for climate resilient farming round 7. We have 15 million available. Breakdown.
We went through program status so far.
We did.
Yeah.
It's like-
Just a basic,
Briefly.
just briefly. So yeah, you go ahead and do what you.
Okay, yeah, not much to add. We don't have any amendments this meeting. Just to quickly go over the tracks again, we've got the livestock management, alternative waste management, and precision feed for 5 million, adaptation and earthlings, 6 million, and healthy soils and life for 4 million. So we just had the webinar, the RFP webinar yesterday. It had a lot of participants, and we'll get that reporting out to everybody for anyone that may have missed it. And then we have some follow-up questions. We've already released one version of the Q&A for round 7. Ready to work out some more questions, follow up on some questions from the webinar yesterday, and probably release another one next week. So that's great. We've got plenty of time for questions, and proposals are due August 7th. That's about it for right now. Contracts for round 6 are those are in process.
I think we're asking districts to reach out to farms that already have separation in place and no cover and flare. If you got some in your district, reach out to them and ask them to consider applying for cover and flare. Cousins in Caledonia have all separation storage in, and I've gone to them and asked them, they need to come over and look at ours and think about applying. Because we need more farms applying under cover and flare. We're not getting anywhere near enough.
Yeah, and track 1, the precedence or the, priority will still be cover and flare projects. But because, we've heard through a lot of feedback that not all farms are, capable of doing that type of system or are ready for that type of system. So expand it out, track 1 a little bit to allow for, some other practices that use nothing or avoid methane production. Manure management, precision feed management. Then some greater amount of funding is available in track 1 for this round. So they have provide incentive to get through more projects to come in and maybe see some other.
There is research being done on enteric reduction with some new additives. We'll wait to see, hopefully that'll be successful once that research is done. And maybe we can look at, is there a way we can reduce enteric production of gas, which I think is the largest portion of the gas produced by a dairy cow. Find a way to maybe help get that going too. We'll see.
Can I say for the districts that are in the room, what is the carbon flare project, reach out to your head, let them know that kind of coordinating, so she's got.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, reach out. Let's talk about it. Waiting for other projects, the costly projects. We want to see them succeed, so when we can kind of support your process, that would be good. If there are any other questions about CRF, I can touch on our federal grant real quick. Okay, so we were awarded with DEC, the federal climate smart commodities grant. We have 60 million. We finished the plan of work process, and we were just DEC was just provided the contract for signature, so that's moving forward. So that's exciting. And for ag and markets, part of that, we're providing the direct assistance to farmers. For that grant, it's meant to have direct assistance to farmers, direct assistance to landowners who have the forestry side, and then also provide some measurement, monitoring, direction and reporting of the practices that we're doing. So for now, and then SUNY ESF and Syracuse University are going to work on those other pieces. for our direct assistance to farmers. We're going to be looking at adding funds to round 8 and round 9 of CRO. On top of our EPF funding, we'll use some better money than developing city pilots to help with some other initiatives around climate smart practices. So that's exciting that we have it for signature. So hopefully next time we talk, we'll be actually talking about when we start to develop those pilots and stuff.
Are those pilots gonna be like implementation type projects, or don't we know quite yet?
Yeah, there's gonna be two. One's gonna be around, using the CNCS tool. That's around management, and the other one is gonna be around monitoring on public winter projects. And payment for data collection.
Questions, anyone? Thank you very much. Still got quite a bit to lunch, so let's, why don't we go into the upper Susquehanna? All right, we're gonna, because we're ahead of schedule a lot, we'll move right into the upper Susquehanna Coalition Program. Lydia?
Inviting me.
Glad you could come.
Good morning. My name is Lydia Brinkley. I work for the Upper Susquehanna Coalition, or Cuyahoga Soil and Water, whatever you want to call us at the moment. This presentation is, of course, by me, but I also want to, lay recognition down that this is work done by our entire coalition and the USC buffer team. So this is the makeup, the geography of the Upper Susquehanna watershed. We encompass about 22 counties. Maybe touch a little more here and there. 18 in New York, 4 in Pennsylvania. We are connected all by an MOU, basically saying that we can move money and between one another, we work on goals to address water quality in the Chesapeake Bay with one another. Our riparian buffer team, we have several teams within the USC. We have an ag team, stream team, wetland team, a construction team, but we also have a buffer team. And our buffer team is basically composed of myself as the coordinator for the team. I have 2 to 3 staff people who coordinate different types of buffer programs. Within our larger buffer program, we have 5 to 10 seasonal employees that are our buffer stewards. And then all of our soil and water conservation district partner staff are part of our buffer team. They provide technical assistance. They know the programs, they provide guidance, and they provide basically just input in shaping our buffer programs. So there's some of our buffer team staff there. Here just shows like our stewards. We have many stewards each summer, and their job is to really get on sites that have previously been installed to check for survival and making sure that everything's all right. So I just want to provide a little background on how this contract agreement with Ag and Markets came to be. We have a lot of big goals within the Chesapeake Bay watershed for riparian buffers. Thousands of acres need to be implemented. We've implemented thousands of acres, but we need thousands and thousands more. To address this issue, we developed what we call the Riparian Forest Buffer Task Force. Awesome name, but it's like a bunch of agencies, NRCS, Farm Service Agency, Cornell, all of our soil and water conservation district members. We all get together and we talk about how we all are addressing this riparian forest buffer goal. This is not just for the soil and water conservation districts to address, it is for all agencies to address. So we talk about how we're going to get things done, and through those conversations at those meetings, we've developed an NRCS contribution agreement for this work to address cruft work. We decide on different types of National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grants to apply for. What are the ideas? What do we think we're capable of? And then, of course, this agreement came out of those meetings as well. We needed to, better understand and really pilot a state program that was supporting just buffers. So for this program, we decided to frame it that we were going to support the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, or CREP. Within the whole Chesapeake Bay, this is like a lot of what we talk about, right? How do we get more CREP on the ground? CREP is like the only program, federal program, that really prioritizes buffers and gets buffers on the ground. They are very successful with CREP in other states. Maybe not so in New York, but that was why we wanted this agreement, right? We wanted to start getting more CREP on the ground. And now we have our NRCS agreement saying that our staff can get paid to do CREP. So let's add on more bonuses, more technical assistance, more for CREP, and let's try to get a lot of CREP on the ground. So our goals were just that. We want to increase CREP adoption. We're going to offer incentives. But we also want to support a comprehensive buffer program. CREP does the implementation, but who's doing all of the planning and all of the stewardship? These projects take 5 to 7 years worth of stewardship to establish. CREP doesn't pay for that. So we decided upon an agreement. We actually, I'll give a lot of credit to Scott and Ag and Markets. We sat down, we developed, what are going to be the goals? How are we going to do it? What are the individual tasks that we're going to do? And now it was just about moving the money. Since we wanted to have an incentive for CREP producers, DEC couldn't give the money directly to us since they can't pay landowners directly. Right, Laura? Okay, I got that right. Yep. So because of the way we operate and because of the way that there's an MOU between the Division of Water and Ag and Markets, they were able to move the money to Ag and Markets, and then we entered into an agreement with Ag and Markets so that we could get that funding. It was a lot of moving the money, a lot of how do we do this and get around things, but we did it. And so we were able to get, let's see here, $610,000 allocated to us. And our contract was only 17 months long, and we definitely spent the money. So we call this program, we don't call it CREP, whatever. We call it the State Buffer Program. That's how we refer to it within all of our districts and all of our partners. This is really a great model for a state buffer program, so that's what we call it. This program supported what we call the State Practice Incentive Program, SPIP. That's an incentive for CREP. I'll get into more of all of these. I'm just introducing you to what is in that agreement. Supported CREP re-enrollment projects. So projects that weren't up to snuff and weren't able to be re-enrolled because they didn't have the survival. We were able to use this program to go to those projects and make them eligible for re-enrollment. So therefore they stay in CREP. We supported our buffer steward program, what we call our USC water quality program, and then a planning program. And I'll get into each one of those individually. So for the State Practice Incentive Program, we paid an incentive on 60 acres. So this is new projects, new CP22, riparian forest buffer. We paid about $113,000 was paid out. So an average of $900 per acre. This is a one-time payment. After the trees are planted, the landowner got that money. We had some pretty big contracts. 23.1 acres was our largest contract. And we also had a pretty small contract, about 1 acre. 7 counties participated. So that means 7 soil and water conservation districts facilitated CREP projects within their counties. CREP re-enrollment eligibility assistance. So we worked with producers on making sure that 50 acres were eligible for re-enrollment. A lot of this funding went to Delaware County Soil and Water to support their herbicide program, and they did a lot of replanting, but Delaware County has a lot of CREP within their county, They work very closely with their USDA partners and can really get things going. Oh, our goal was 50 acres, sorry. And we did activity on about 84 acres. So, you know, some contracts, let's say, were 10 acres, but we only did the activity on that project within the 3 acres to make that whole area eligible. So while we only did activity on about 84 acres, we made much more eligible for re-enrollment. We did brush management, replanting, herbicides, tree planting. And like I said, most of this went to Delaware County. And you can see their herbicide spots around those trees there. Our buffer steward program. So this is where we hire interns each summer. Each district, each specific district hires interns. They develop a workload of buffers that need to be attended to. We really like to see buffers that have been implemented within the last 5 to 7 years. So 1 to 5, 1 to 7 years. We want to make sure that we're getting out there. We want to make sure that the plants are living, the tubes are standing up, any materials that need to be replaced are being replaced. We want to make sure the maintenance is being done, it's being mowed. This program specifically, state buffer program, supported 4 counties each year. We had more counties than that participate and want to participate, so we had to secure funding elsewhere. But for this project, for this program, you guys supported 4 counties, 4 stewards, 4 counties. So those individuals got out on about 1,300 acres total within the 2-year period. The 2 summer seasons of this grant. Average survival per county ranged from 50 to 80%. With these stewards, so they not only assess survival, but then they're trying to get back out there and do replantings and kind of facilitate these establishment activities. And then we did 1,100 acres with management activities. So we did facilitate mowing. We did replace materials. We have steward work days where we have all of the stewards come to individual sites and we all work together on those sites to make sure that they're up to snuff. And that picture is the first work day, so everyone's super happy. That is not how they look at me yet. It's hard work. You know, we're in the riparian areas. It's often like there's little beaver cavities, so we're, you know, the land is very up and down, it's floodplain, it's marshy, it's swampy. This is not easy work. Last year for our 2022 buffer steward program, which I feel like we're really starting to get in a groove with this program, we had our virtual training online, which is awesome because we can record it. And as stewards come on, maybe they come on in June, we have our steward training in May, we record it, they can view it in June. And then we had 6 in-field work days for those individuals to come and kind of like garner some camaraderie. So they don't feel like they're just like working alone in like the abyss of planted trees. This year we're having 9 in-field work days, and I definitely invite you all to attend. They are within all of our counties, even in Pennsylvania. So if you'd like to attend one of those, kind of get your hands dirty and figure out what it actually takes to establish a buffer, please join us. So this is just from 2022. I figured I'd show you this. The 2021 map looks very similar, and to overlay them, I mean, they're the same points, right? So in 2022, we got out on 160 sites, assessed about 800 acres. This is generally where things are located. You know, we have a lot of buffers in the eastern part of our watershed from Tioga County and east. And this year is the first year that we're supporting buffer stewards in Pennsylvania through a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant. So the program is expanding throughout our entire watershed. And just so you know, this isn't necessarily about this program specifically, but this is what it looks like for survival. And I like to lump equip, NIFLIP, Ag Non-Point Source, and CREP all together, since those programs generally are on the same site. So, sometimes we mention, oh, CREP was the lead here, but it also has the Ag Non-Point Source funding. So you can kind of lump those all together. And then what really gets great survival, 71%, is our Trees for Tributaries program. Sort of a quasi-state program. It is supported through the state, through EPA pass-through funding. But our Trees for Trips program is like a program where landowners want trees, we say yes, right? It could be 10 trees, it could be 100 trees. The landowner typically plants or is involved with the planting. So it's like a really great program where landowners are super engaged. So this next slide will kind of show a little bit more about that and how we get landowner engagement. So that top site there is the landowner performing maintenance, right? When we go out there and we do our survival assessment, we ask questions to the landowner about, are you maintaining it? Do you look at your buffer? Do you walk in your buffer? What is their herbaceous cover, right? Like we ask all sorts of questions. Is there deer browse? Is there vole browse? So we want to know if the landowner performing maintenance. 41% said yes, we are performing maintenance. 59 said no. That's a lot of people not performing maintenance. And so we wanted to compare prep sites, which we can lump all of the state and federal programs together there, prep sites, and then Trees for Trip sites. So in prep sites, state and federal programs, is the landowner performing maintenance? 24% said yes. Like, that's, well, you know. And then Trees for Trip sites, the people who want it, the Say Yes program, 46% are performing maintenance. But this makes sense in a way. Think about having a 23-acre prep site on your property. And you have a lot of other things to do. You don't really know much about planting trees. And besides that, it's 23 acres. That's a lot of land, hilly land with beavers, down trees, lots of random things happening. That's a lot of land for you to individually maintain. So this just kind of wraps up our plant survival versus landowner performing maintenance. If the landowner is performing maintenance, we find that we get better plant survival. And this was all kind of developed more so through the state buffer program. So we appreciate the funding to be able to do this a little bit more robustly. And it's really propelled us to take more action in establishing riparian forest buffer, taking more responsibility upon ourselves as individual soil and water conservation districts to do more to establish these buffers. The landowner's not doing it. That's fact. But we are still invested and we still want them to succeed. So moving on to our water quality program, this is what we call our regional delivery mechanism. So this is where we're able to move funds to individual districts throughout our watershed. Tioga County being the administrative headquarters, we get the funding and we move the funding out to all of our districts. So the goals for this program, for state buffer program, were 60 acres of riparian forest buffer, 150 acres of grazing. We originally budgeted $246,000 for this, and there was no match required. So what we ended up doing was about 93 acres of riparian forest buffer, about 5 acres of wetland planting, 4,200 feet of stream corridor restoration, and about 190 acres of grazing. We spent approximately 2,200 of state buffer program funds per acre of buffer. We ended up using about $206,000 for this, but we leveraged about $300,000 through CREM, EQIP, and non-point source CRF, as well as Arbor Day Foundation and then our land trust partners. Overall, it costs about $5,400 per acre of buffer. Adding fence, watering, crossings, stuff like that, along with like probably these days we're using a containerized stack, we use tubes, stakes. 6 counties participated. We had 9 projects. I'm going to go through some of them here in a minute. So just to recap, this is a district-led program. Districts have the projects. They've been working on the projects themselves. They've done all of the planning. They applied to the USC Water Quality Program for the funding. We disperse the funding based on a ranking. You can find our ranking online, but it's essentially our stream corridor assessment protocol, which I think maybe some or all of you are probably familiar with. You know, Is there a buffer? Are animals fenced out? Will they be fenced out? You know, stuff like that, they get points depending on that assessment. We have a pretty quick turnaround with contracting and funding because we have that agreement between us all. And then, you know, our invoicing and our reporting is pretty simple also. A little bit more about the program. We developed this program in, I think, probably like 2016, 2017. And it really was to further the implementation of riparian forest buffers. It has since expanded to include wetlands and stream corridor restoration. And the program itself does provide cost share for all of the components that you need to get a buffer on the ground. Fence, water, crossings, erosion control practices. In the past, this program has been funded through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and the Arbor Day Foundation and the U.S. Forest Service. So here I think I have 3 total projects just to show you. If you guys ever attend Conservation Skills Workshop, you've probably seen this farm in Portland County. So traditionally, this is along Trout Brook in Portland County where the cows have had access to like 5,000 feet upstream forever. So through this program, we were able to fence them out and get about 9.5 acres of riparian forest buffer. We ended up getting a little bit of grazing acreage there by, you know, getting the animals out and creating a paddock for them. And then we also did about 3,500 feet of stream corridor restoration through this program. So you'll all be seeing that soon, hopefully. This is a project in Shenango County. We have a super hard time getting cropland buffers. The only way that we have gotten cropland buffers in the past is to buy the land and then convert it to forest. Because of the incentives that this program offered, this landowner decided to, you know, turn their riparian area into a riparian forest buffer. So this is along the Shenango River. I believe this is like Oxford area, so you can definitely drive by and see this. But this landowner put over a 50-foot buffer in, about 10 acres of prep. So that's about $9,000 one-time payment for that project. So this is another last project I think I'm going to go over. This is what we call the Muscle Flats Project in Otsego County. This is a really big partnership between the Wetland Trust, Butternut Valley Alliance, Otsego Land Trust, and also the State Buffer Program. So for those of you who don't know, this is Otsego County, and within Otsego County is the Butternut Creek watershed. It's a really pristine watershed. It's probably the most pristine watershed within our whole Upper Susquehanna watershed. There's, like you saw on the previous slide, there's hellbender, there's mussels, there's American eels. They stock American eels in this watershed. So when we were approached to restore about a mile of riparian forest buffer in this area, of course, we were like, yeah, like, what do you need? You know? So we took cropland out of production for this as well. This property was purchased by the Otsego Land Trust and then given to the Wetland Trust, pending an easement by Otsego Land Trust. So it's owned by a trust. There's an easement by a different trust. So this is a permanently protected site. And kind of what I'm getting at is that there's a lot of people invested in the longevity of this buffer. They want to see this succeed. So this is a property map just showing, you know, all along the Butternut Creek, over a mile. So this area here, I should have had a better map, I guess, now that I'm seeing this. It's all just scrub shrub. We went in there, performed a lot of site maintenance. Our construction crew did that. And then all the cropland here was pretty easy, right? It's already prepped, easy. So we came in and we did all of the planning, the site prep, and we facilitated implementation and oversaw that implementation. And now we have the steward program to come back and make sure that it's all set. So a little bit more about that. I think I've gone through this pretty well, but we had a family of 5 individuals that really wanted this land to go into, you know, perpetual conservation. We had multiple funding partners, high conservation value land. We did sign on for a 5-year lease for a portion of that for the farmer to keep cropping some of that. We had a conservation easement put on it, which protects the buffer, right? So it's like crap in a way that we're protecting this buffer with an easement, except for this easement is forever and not 10 to 15 years. And then for the riparian buffer improvement, we worked with the Otsego Soil and Water Conservation District to plan, and now we're working with them to steward this. And this was about 24.5 acres of planting. Just some pictures, and that's from beginning to kind of what it looks like now. That's site prep over there. We left a lot of the standing apple. This kind of shows planting in that area that used to be crop. There's Scott actually doing some riparian buffer stewardship. We're finding some nasty mice within our tubes, and then we continue to mow it to this day. And it's only 2 years old, so you're not going to see trees or anything. So with the USC Water Quality Program, we planted about 18,500 plants total. I just wanted to put some of the species up there, just so everybody has an understanding that we're not planting ornamentals, we're planting native stock, things that are going to survive in great amounts, right? We want to get plants established. I mean, if people want like high value trees, lots of oaks or something, we can come back and plant that. But the goal of the program right now is to get plants established, get trees growing. Okay, a little bit more about our, I don't know why this is in here. I thought I already said that. Not yet. We foresee it coming. So because we have foreseen so many issues coming, we are now developing like multi-year agreements with nurseries so that they grow stock that we want, and then they're even open to growing the seed that we collect. So I guess just to wrap up here with our state practice incentive payment, I don't know why this is in here a second time, sorry. Okay, so with the planning program, this is kind of the last thing to hit on here. There was some funding in the state buffer program for planning. This is really important because AAM planning is just for on farm. There's a lot of buffer opportunity not on the farm. We run a trees for tributaries program that, you know, these are landowners with backyards, right, that abut a stream. Through the Trees for Tributaries program, each year we get 60 acres of buffer. That's like not a small amount, like that, but that's through probably 60 to 70 projects. So we need people to plant. I can't do this myself or my 2 staff people that I have go around the entire watershed and plant trees for trips. We want district engagement. We want the districts to do this. We want local volunteers. We don't want to go to Delaware County all the time. It's far. So this program allowed us to reimburse districts for their staff time in planning projects not on ag land. And I will say specifically trees for trips, although there was a lot of projects done not on ag land besides trees for trips. So we planned 92 projects, 379 acres. Some of them are still being implemented. So the contract is over, ended in October. Some of those projects are going in this spring, some will go in the fall, but throughout this, we're now on track to implement about 200 acres of buffer per year because this funding really, you know, like spurred a lot of that planning. And we want to keep it going. We want to keep paying for folks to plant not on ag lands. This is just showing, you know, a little bit about our planning program, what we reimburse. We reimburse based on the size of the project. That just keeps it simple. Therefore, we're not developing, you know, different contracts with different groups. It's all the same depending on the project size. And these estimates were made by myself and my staff, depending on, you know, the time it takes me to plan a buffer. So it's pretty easy. We have, you know, a template for how to plan a buffer. They just fill out the template. They develop a contractor estimate request or a Trees for Tributaries program and invoice us. It's super simple. And I will say the contractor estimate request This is different than the plan, right? The plan says all the wonderful benefits of the project. The contractor estimate is, this is how many trees we need, this is how many tubes we need, this is the project location. It's super simple, and now those all are coming to me. They're coming to one location. So I send them out as a bundle to contractors for all of the districts within our watershed. Therefore, the contractors know the number of projects, the size of projects, and the locations of all New York projects within our watershed at one time. This has led to lower costs. And then further, if I'm able to, like, say all the projects, some of the projects are coming in and they're going to be funded by the state buffer program. I can bundle those further together and say, we'll just pay for all of them. It further reduces the cost. This past time, it's reduced it by like 60 cents, which is a lot when you're planting, 30,000 trees per season. That's all I have. My contact information is there, as well as Wendy Walsh. She's in the back, the watershed coordinator, has helped facilitate this as well. Questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about how you guys came up with the incentive payment? Kind of like what is the formula of them, like how did you do it?
Sure. So originally, the incentive payment was based on a matrix that I think is in the state prep agreement. And so it was based on buffer size. What else? Oh, land use, marginal pasture land or cropland. Okay, cropland was getting a 15 times soil rental rate incentive. This was back in like 2018, 2019. We just were not getting a lot of participation, even because it was 5 times the soil rental rate for marginal pasture land for a 35-foot buffer. We just weren't, it was not moving the needle. So, and we needed to spend the money in that previous agreement. So we just said 20 times across the board. And that started moving it and started getting more people engaged. So it was kind of on a whim, I guess, but it was also because the 5, 10, and 15 times payments were just not doing anything.
Yeah, for it's just implementation right now. Personnel times or incentive. That's just straight buffer.
Right. But it would include fence, water, crossing. Water. Okay. Yeah, per acre right now, if you just wanted to implement a buffer, we did need any frills, so those other accessory BMPs, as I like to call them, it's about $4,000 per acre.
Is that an accessory rivalry? Or do you need additional maintenance money to reach that accessory?
We need additional maintenance money.
So that's just the initial buffer. And what would you need in maintenance money per acre to have that acre succeed to get it into?
I don't know right now, and we don't know. Right now, what we're trying to do through some other programs is get contractors engaged in the maintenance. So since we're getting so many acres of buffer, like it's not feasible for our buffer stewards, the 10 of them, to get out on hundreds of acres of buffer and mow and weed each tube. So instead, we're going to try to focus some of our larger sites, 24.5 acres, for example, to try to get contractors involved to come out there and mow twice a year and do replants if necessary. There's pilot projects in Virginia where they're doing this, and I think it's about $1,000 per acre. It's hot. I don't know what it's going to cost. We're just starting that whole process. Yeah, hopefully after 5 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Really a wonderful presentation, ladies. You mentioned that it's difficult to encourage farmers to participate in the program for converting cropland buffers. Have you found this across the board to perhaps ways to encourage farmers besides private land? Have you found any farmers voluntarily their croplands buffer on the south.
So that one project I showed, Chenango County, they were sold on the incentive payment, 10 acres, that was $9,000 for one-time payment. They were not the farm landowner. So I think in some cases, if we contact landowners instead of the individual farmers, we might have some luck. Landowners, the farmers are landowners, but like if you separate the two of them, and we say the landowner may be more wildlife, water quality, focused individuals, and they don't necessarily know what the cropland is doing for the waterways. I think that might be a better way in. At least I'd like to see. And honestly, a lot of our cropland is in the western part of our watershed. So you saw all the dots on that map. We have very few in the western part. We have a ton of cropland in the western part of our watershed. And prep doesn't sell there. We don't have the USDA technical assistance out there to sell prep. We don't have the Soil and Water Conservation District technical capacity out there. So I think that there's a lot to be improved in certain areas to better educate on what these programs can do on cropland. But buying it so far has been great.
Right, if I said a little bit more about that, I think especially if you're a dairy farm, you need so much acres to feed the animals. And if you can't get more acres, you can't give up acres. If you rent property, and we rent half of our property, we rent from other landowners, as you said, those landowners are more willing to take out land, some of that land from the farmer renting and do something with it. And we've had that happen. But getting the farmer himself to reduce is going to be difficult unless they have abundance of land and very few. So that's why I really think incentives, unfortunately, have to be big enough to make the farmer want to give up some land. And some of that land is marginal being along the creek because you have issues with it, as you said. But you spend a lot of money now, but to get farmers to give up farming land is difficult.
Somebody had once told me it's going to take, $400 per acre per year to get a crop farmer to give up their cropland along the stream. $300 to $400, because that's what you could potentially make on crops per acre.
In that, they're right. The guys that are giving up solar to solar are getting 1,200 an acre a year. And as my cousin said, the best they've ever grossed per acre per year is $1,200 before expenses were taken out. So the solar is actually more profitable. But in towns like Leroy, you can't put solar on viable farmlands. Town won't allow it. It has to be foreground only. Maybe some of that along that could be done. I don't know. It's an issue of paying enough and probably you could make $400 an acre on good ground. So that becomes a problem.
Yeah, and these programs, CRAB, State Buffer Program, just aren't lucrative enough for that. So
I think targeting the streams and really individually contacting landowners and not waiting for a landowner to come to the Soil and Water District, I think will make a difference. You'll get more participation when you go out, offer something along that stream bank. And maybe you can't go real wide. Your
Right.
first initial, you're gonna, what they're looking for.
35 feet is the NRCS standard.
That's small.
Yeah. Well,
So, but I think they need to start with that. They might be willing to. And I think an awful lot of it, farmers are so busy, even small farms too, they don't have time to look up this stuff and look into it.
Mhm.
And if you have personal contact, always gets you farther.
yes.
If the districts that are interested in that watershed doing it. Or
Yeah, Tom?
So how did you set your own rates? Was that part of
The 20 times?
Yeah.
Um,
like, how did that come about?
it was,
So I'll say my ignorance, but there's standard rates. So how do you say, now we're not going to do that? 20x rate or a 50x rate? Try to get
so with the 20 times, we I always know a little bit of what the workload is. Sure. And at the time, we needed to spend the money that was in this previous, not this agreement, but a previous agreement. So I said, I know we have X amount of acres. If we offer 20 times the soil rental rate, we're gonna get rid of this money. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And that was a conversation between DEC, Ag and Markets, and USC. So it was more about spending the money in a previous agreement than it was coming up with a magic number. We did know that the 5, 10, and 15 wasn't moving the needle on getting people through the door. Once we were starting to offer the 20 times though, that led to this agreement and more people coming in through the door saying, like that cropland, right? Saying, yes, that moves the needle for me. So it's all kind of, you know, a negotiation between us and the state agencies to kind of determine that number. I don't know if they would want to increase it at some point. I don't know.
I'm familiar with Dale said, I got a ton of crap on it. So, crap on buying buffers. Very important.
Yeah. And
Really not a big deal. A whole lot better.
it's just a one-time payment.
Right, that's it. That's right.
For
So it can't
15
be that
years.
one-time payment. It's gotta be.
The ad, Lauren?
No, I was just thinking too, in terms of like, a lot of this money is originating from EPA, TBL. And in terms of like TBL credit, kind of a role that I live in, the cropland buffer is the best credit, but a marginal pasture land buffer gets really expensive. So, you know, we kind of look at it from perspective is the, you know, is that cost worth getting that? Or will we just focus our funding on where we want to put it? Balance that.
And two, I will say, to get the cropland buffer, we definitely have to go with crop. Because you want those incentives. Get marginal pasture land buffers, we don't always need to go with crop. As long as we're getting fence, water, you know, the farmer's happy sometimes to just have that without additional incentives. So it's super easy to get marginal pasture land buffers if we're giving the fence and the water. Versus the cropland buffer, we're not, you know, we're not giving anything except for maybe a 20-time incentive, you know?
Do you put signage up on roadsides where you've done, so we have like advertisement?
So we're getting there. There's very few signs right now. There's been a lot of signs through trees for tributaries because we were given signs. But yeah, most of our sites do not have signs.
Because I think that becomes an advertisement point to you.
Mhm.
That a farmer could actually feel pride in it, look at the signs sitting outside the road, what I'm participating in, it might help other farmers to say, maybe I want to talk to him about what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of us within the coalition agree. That's definitely something that's on our radar. Yeah. Let me go.
How does, your incentive payment compare to what they're doing in Pennsylvania or other parts of the Chesapeake watershed?
As far as I know, nobody's offering the state practice incentive payment.
But do you know total if that adds up to? I know locally we've had a lot of conversation because Maryland's had some success with cropland, but they have a pretty significant incentive. I don't know where all those sources come from, but
Yeah, I'm familiar with Maryland's crop incentive. Yes, Scott?
Just get the same forms. Be incentive. This is bad. As the highest grade preference loan. Once you get by that metric.
All right, thank you.
Since lunch is here, it's almost ready. I think we will stop even though we're ahead of schedule, but we're gonna be no later than 12:30 back again. But once everyone's had something to eat, we do have a working lunch program that we're gonna work on, but go ahead and take a break, everybody, and get something to eat.
Just gotta pause it. I think I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna try.
So wanted to take a few minutes today to honor Mr. David Grass, who has been a member of our state committee for the past 16 years. We wanted to recognize him today for all of those years of service. Dave began his tenure with the state committee in 2008. I believe, going back in my records, were appointed by Governor Patterson as a New York State Grange representative for most of the time. While Dave has served on the committee, he was also served as the vice chairman. Dave has been a steadfast and reliable member of the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. Over the course of his 16 years, we estimated that Dave participated in approximately 150 state committee meetings. That is estimated. We tried going back. Thank you, Melissa, or whoever worked on going back through minutes to get a real accurate count, but we're estimating at 150. So that's a lot of time spent dedicated to conservation districts and the development of conservation programs. So overall that time, as you served on this committee, that's right, a lot of road, a lot of miles. We should have calculated that. Dave has participated on this committee and has overseen the expansion of several of our programs, most notably our District 8 program that has just grown exponentially over the past several years, as well as the creation of new programs and opportunities that support conservation districts and the work that everyone does, and continues the enhancement of natural resource management. So Dave, I want to say thank you very much for all of your dedication to the state committee. On behalf of myself and Brian, who couldn't be here today, but really
I talked to Brian the other day.
wanted to be here, with you for this moment.
Just want to add a little to it. Dave's a great friend. A lot of years together, a lot of meetings, and had a lot of fun. It's great honor to work with you. We have a small plaque for you in memory. Just take it home and hang it up. And then we have cake for everybody afterwards. Dave, thank you very much.
We decided that when I went to work for committee, I decided that I would be able to take trips place in Jefferson County, because I worked for a school district as a mechanic and a driver. And luckily, it didn't cost us too much. I drove the bus for nothing, and I think it cost me 5 cents a mile or something like that, some ridiculous thing to pay for. We could take a busload of people anywhere they wanted to go. Well, there's a lot of them didn't make the truck. So that's, thank you for this, and I really feel honored to have been able to serve this long on this committee.
I'm just pictures of you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get some pictures and we'll get out of this thing. Gotta share really quick. One of my favorite memories, I haven't been on, with the state committee staff all that long, but we did a conservation tour up in Jefferson County, and I had the privilege of riding in your bus. You drove us through the backwoods of Jefferson County, and that was just awesome. I never felt more safe and in such capable
We're on the
hands.
trail.
Yeah, we kind of went off road. That was impressive. So
It was
I'll
a
never
bus
forget
we got
that.
there, but anyway. So I enjoyed that from the way, I really did. I've enjoyed my experiment on the state committee, and I went to Jefferson County committee too. extremely proud of Jefferson County people because they brought something through nothing. What with the own our own building now. Got a lot of equipment down there and the tree sales out of this world.
Excellent.
That's what,
Amazing.
that's what we're doing today. So.
We have cake up here, so I will cut. If you want a bigger piece, let me know.
Before we cut it, we can get one.
So we.
Hold this up a little bit. Here. Get the other side.
We're signing up.
Perfect. Right. Look, they got the logo on there and everything. Magical and a paper. No problem. Organizing all of this. Figuring it all out.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome, sir.
We've done everything except advisory, haven't we?
Yes, we made it through.
Okay, we've done everything except our advisory report, so, start with Bethany.
Well, I don't think I have anything additional to report to the group today. So if I think of something, I might say it, but for this time, I will pass.
And since we're all in person, I expect all of you to report something. Go ahead.
Well, NYACD, board meeting is tonight at 7:00 Zoom. And hopefully we'll have a Division 3 rep joining us next week.
Don't think I have anything.
Nothing going on at Farm Bureau?
Been too busy to, honestly.
Dave?
Nothing report. I just want to thank you for the, it's an honor to.
You have well earned it.
Hope so.
Sure.
otherwise in the past, it's been this nice process. Like not the case, we'll have access to the program manager, so everyone should become maybe.
Hi, again.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here and to be part of your celebration. Couple of updates from the Employees Association. We are having our May meeting in Suffolk County. Please save the date for May 17th. It's a Wednesday. We'll have both hybrid and in-person options. I have yet to put out our agenda, but that will come in the next couple of days. We have also had startup committee meetings for our conservation skills workshop. Shout out to Tom. So that's going to be rolling. We're thinking about switching locations to Auburn this year. So that keep things a little bit fresh, sort of take the burden off Portland County and keep things spicy with some new site visits. We're going to put out our request for proposals for locations for our upcoming water quality symposium, looking ahead into 2024. And I want to thank Bethany for a wonderful meeting explaining the participation of committee members with the Municipal Assistance Subcommittee and the Technical Advisory Committee. So lots of things going on at CDEA. So if you have any questions or suggestions, please contact me by email or phone number. Looking forward to a great couple of years with you all. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dan Welch, I'm Executive Director of Cornell Cooperative Extension in Cuba County and the CC rep to the advisory rep to the committee. Just a couple things. One, our nutrient management program on campus is doing a value manure study. If you have any farmers that are interested, looking both at the nutrient value and what savings they could generate by using manure effectively versus buying commercial fertilizer.
We already are.
Yeah, okay. If you have any farmers that are interested, reach out to your local extension office. They'll get you in touch with the right people. And the other thing, just to pick up on Dale mentioned the enteric emissions from dairy cattle. If the group is interested, I don't know all that's going on there, but I know we are from both the real basic research on that to some of the more applied research on what works and what doesn't. The KLs and CCs working on that. If the group's interested, sometime an update on that, find the right people to do that.
Yeah, I think it would be good.
Okay.
It's an area that we will look at any way we can help in. I think it's something that can be used by the farmer.
Okay.
Blake? Thank you for coming today. Your presentation was great.
Oh, Tony with the DEC. I don't have anything else other than thank you for having me. And it's great to be here.
I'm Lauren with the DEC. I just have a couple items. So we're working really hard on WQIP and the non-point source planning grant. She'll go out with the CFA hopefully this spring. Timing, I don't know exactly of when that will be announced, but hopefully very soon. You'll be seeing that out on the street. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, I'll be working with Brian. We secured some funding specifically for the Lake Champlain Basin to fund a second round of our cover crop program and a third round of our rural roads program for the districts. So passing that funding through to ag markets hopefully soon.
So Brendan briefly mentioned some of the work that we did here, and I just wanted to follow up. So the beginning of the month, we had our CNMP training, Comprehensive Nutrient Management Planning training, and that's part of the Agricultural Environmental Management Certification Program. And we also co-partner with NRCS and DEC, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Tom Overton, Carrie Ketterings, Pearson Workman from Pro Dairy, Sarah Latessa from DEC, folks at NRCS, Vale Podolic, Josh Terneski, Paul Bagley, Karen Hoffman, Tim Wimmer from Oneida County helps us out. And of course, we're there. So this training allows folks to learn everything about CNMP development. Folks from DEC got to spend some time learning about all those come together. If they're gonna be doing some CAFO inspections, they can kind of learn to look at those plans in another lens and talk to planners and, if they have questions on stuff, see where, trace it back and have a conversation about it. But it's really just, it's exciting because we've got a bunch of new planners that are getting to the point where they're submitting plans for the certification. So on that note, we've got 10 active people, which seems like a small number, but it's really good. COVID kind of nailed us on that and stalled it. So we've got some very seasoned folks, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years under the belt at districts. And also the private planning firms that are pursuing certification. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Ron, really quick, how many of those, like, what's the breakdown? How many districts, how many private?
Okay, so the 10 active planners, we have 51, 52 AIM certified planners in the state. We have 10 currently enrolled in certification. 7 of those are at soil and water districts. 3 of them are at private planning firms. The last couple we certified were private planning firms, so just a little teeter-totter there, but there's others that have become a certified crop advisor that a lot of districts had folks that, worked hard on those exams, materials, which is a performance objective in the AEM base program, as well as allows them to sign off on cultural NRCS practices in our program. State soil and water conservation cost share programs. So it's really good to see folks kind of advancing a little bit, and we're building a strong knowledge base. So that's kind of the update for the group here. And just a big thank you to, I would even say it's a 4-way partnership. So many jobs to come together and work on common initiatives. So Blake, definitely thank you for those folks. It's fun. We've got a fun team now where we can, work in a very, I don't know how to say it, very proactive and, speak freely and get things done. So it's nice.
For Western New York, I'll just mention that on May 10th, there's a Tennessee River Basin Summit scheduled to convene in Rochester. The agenda is full of a lot of the good work that districts and our partners have done in the basin and the plans for the future. A lot of good projects starting to come to fruition in Western New York. The only other thing I'll mention is statewide, the state committee staff is planning on convening manager meetings the second week of June. We hope to have a full agenda out very soon for districts to consider and stay.
Much of the same, working pretty hard to close out some of the older grants that we've got still open, working on our regional managers agenda schedule. But also to mention that something that's new for me, I got pulled into a 9-element plan discussion around Otsego Lake. Had HABs there last summer that shut down the lake for, I guess, half the summer, got a lot of people's attention. So that's facilitated some interaction with DC staff, Karen Hansen, Kate Black from Department of State. Nice to actually meet these people, and I have to say that the group right now is very cooperative. They all seem to be pulling in the same direction. We're hoping that continues. But for me, it's been that's an interesting experience to learn about those planning processes, how to put that stuff together. Optimistic that they'll be able to do the right thing and get a good plan. And a new district manager in Otsego, Christos Kalinopoulos, so he's grabbing on with both hands. He did a good job there, so patients look like it's going to be a good experience. That's all I have to.
Thanks. Yeah, for Region 4, we're continuing to see some good support in the form of funding from, in particular, Lake Champlain Basin Program, along with DVC partners. Lauren mentioned some special projects we're doing over there. We also have a capacity grant, hopefully see a coordinator for the Champlain, the Quickney Coalition here in the next calendar year. A lot of good projects there. The downside of that is we're seeing some more staff turnover in 3 of the counties I work in. So there's going to be some opportunities probably soon in Northern New York. The staff that are there working hard, building skills, as Ron mentioned, some of the agronomy stuff. We are seeing more districts, technicians getting the CCA certification, working towards AEM planner certification. So
trying to avoid seeing those sort of desert areas of people with lack of certification because they have nobody from Jason County to kind of help with those things. So on that note, it's looking a little bit more positive to some of those staff that are pursuing, which is great. Other than that, a lot of AEM 17 final construction season coming up here. This is usually when I see a lot of projects entering their final phase, new landowners kind of swapping in, seeing who's ready for the shovel-ready project. So a lot of communication with districts on those. Final push here for that round. I also see a lot of interest in CRF rounds. So having a lot of communication with districts, especially noting the webinar this week. A lot of good questions, a lot of good details, and some of the changes to CRF. So it's looking promising for this round. So that managers meeting June 21st with North Country and several others around the state can't make that one. So thanks.
I don't have anything.
I'm on the OCN board, so that's the on-site training network. They focus on on-site wastewater treatment systems. We're having a soils course and an installers course in Portland. Wait a second.
I'm Linda Cochran from Brooklyn County, Southern Water District. I'm a board member for years. I want to thank you first for all of the funding and all the work that you guys do, because it really makes something great for our us to be able to give something back to our community and the people are in SWCC, NYACD. So thank you for that. One of our biggest issues right now is that as we hear all about all of these different programs, ones that you talked about today, things that we can build upon is our capacity to do that. Meaning that we have the staff, but we don't have the room to have the adequate amount of staff to continue to do all the things that we'd like to do. So we have been having issues trying to look for additional another office space within the keepings of the law. And on deck can do some other things. So that is an issue that we've been working with Scott with this very faithfully. I think he may brought this already to you. But the programs are so great and the opportunity to do this, and the interest, we have great interest in having many of these different projects. We have so much staff. So that's something that we're trying to look at and trying to see how we can get to an office space that will allow us the adequate space to work. So just on what Scott has been working with very faithfully, something I brought up to MISD. But
I'll add to that. It's the staff, all of you in here that do the work, and not just soil and water, DEC, NRCS, all the rest of you. Wouldn't be done without you. Appreciate all of you.
Wendy Walsh, I'm here, I guess, today on behalf of the Banner Coalition. So I just would like to thank, I'll echo what Lydia's presentation said. I'd like to thank Lauren, DEC, and their continued support along with the state committee. You know, taking a chance on the USC, giving us some funding to start a program. It's been extremely successful and beneficial. Working towards, I guess, our Chesapeake Bay's. Like the vaccines has been sufficient across the state lately, that the Upper Susquehanna Coalition is a demonstration of what you can do under district law by forming a watershed organization. And not as it is existing, and it can be very powerful. So.
Chip Young from Duke County Soil and Water. Here mainly as an observer, but I'd like to make an observation. In our part of the world, Central or tremendous amount of technology that's being adopted. It's well ahead of the curve as to what the state looks at as far as EMPs and other types of quite a bit about covers and flares. Right now, the bigger dairies around us are capturing that gas, natural resource. So I wonder, you know, how appropriate covers and flares would be. Sorts of things. It's an observation.
Well, in our case, with our two, We are now researching with engineers on how do you heat the hot water for the milking parlor with the gas without cleaning it from the cover. We got engineers working on developing a boiler that will burn dirty gas without having to run through a whole cleaning system, because we just flare it off. And the flare will run from early July to the end of November, 1,500 degrees with a ball of flame that big around, nonstop. A lot of energy that it flares off.
Yeah, and that's,
So we need to utilize that gas, and that's the next step.
these companies are recapturing that gas and putting it in the pipeline.
We got to do something else with it. Burn it off, no doubt, man. And that technology, I believe, is coming.
Harry Baxter, Valley Soil and Water. I'm here. Yeah, as an observer, I'd like to say that it's a pleasure to be here with so many people throughout the state actually have the interest of every one in the state. Not just the guy swimming, boating, but the farmer. People that utilize it, work towards the benefit of everybody, is quite an accomplishment.
It's a great group we part of.
5 and a couple Suns Valley, Long Island, more of the same around the state. As you say, a lot of questions come in that are out right now. Some options are, especially for CRM. A lot of board meetings, a lot of district law trainings, and finding out what districts in my region are really making sure they're hitting those accomplishments or long measures early, often already. Training tomorrow morning. Site visits the last couple weeks to look at some projects in Green and Suffolk County down on the island. A little outside the box, a little different than what you see typically around the state. Not all funded through our office, some of that's coming from GDP and city money. That's large made projects, but projects to see. Working with Green County quite a bit on their AM strategy. Have participated in this year's back on board round, so them to get that up. On the state aid side of things, since the last meeting, I've finished analyzing that hourly rates data that you all submit as part of your reporting. That basically averages for all the staff in the state, broken down by sheet. So that sent out a few weeks ago, so we have those programs for this year. Notes, make sure our RFPs that are out now, you're using the numbers that are already. That is different from what that memo said. Memo, the next year's RFPs, and also touched on the so those rates, there's 5 different positions on those rates. 2 of them stay the same, but 3 of them went up. So I think overall that's showing their districts are paying their staff more money, which I think is back and adding on more staff is the direction that we're all looking for. So that's it's good that that's the trend.
All right, so in Cuyahoga County, like most of the districts, our field season is going to start to overlap with the grant writing season. So a lot of projects both going in and then planned for the future. But then we're also mixed in with meeting season still with 90 planned going on Skinny-Atlas Lake, 90 recently adopted in Wasco Lake, which rules and regulations, modifications in Wasco Lake, and a lot of stuff just going on. We've been working with Partners for Healthy Watersheds, locally, local-led farmer advocate group with a lot of different member organizations where we're trying to do more education. And we had a tile drainage meeting last week. It was, I think there were 50 something people in the meeting room like this, and then another 60 or so online to try and learn about tile drainage. There's so much about the pros and the cons. Depends on which side of the fence. So doing a lot of education. We got a farm tour coming up Thursday, tomorrow. Go visit a couple farms, get some of the people that may have not been on a farm in a very long time to see how different they change and how this management. So a lot of education, just constantly out there getting the bill. Anything?
Jefferson County has been building some reforestation work. We have a list of people, buffers. We're also doing some record amount of trees this year, so we're giving about 2 days. And we're implementing for the second year a new program that our director came up with. And that is SW Cares, it's stormwater, carbon awareness, education, reforestation education for students. And it's fourth grade students that we're going into the classroom. Last year it was only 2 classes, and this year we have a whole week plan. So that's a exciting program.
So we're just finishing up, grant writing and getting some more grant writing. Similarly. Large planning going on. Speaking to people. I had our tree trucks in the last week, which similar high numbers and. So. This is my second year. I'd like to thank the surrounding districts for all the support, Jay and state committee. The second year, our environmental field days, about this year. Had a record. Our, technician. Inspired apartment. Thank you guys all.
Did I miss anybody? Or anybody got anything else they want to add?
I did think of something. At our last state committee meeting, I kind of reported out on a timeline, tentative timeline that we were shooting to adhere to for our strategic plan update. Since that meeting, I've been working with the other state committee staff to develop a survey that will be sent out to soil and water conservation districts. Basically asking questions on how to get feedback on how the past 5 years have gone, and also get some feedback on some future directions for the state committee. That's going to be finalized hopefully by the end of the week and sent out in the beginning of May to districts.
Next meeting. We got it down projected for Tuesday, May 16th. Yeah. Hey, Scott, you think?
Try it.
Try. It will be a, we're back to electronic meeting. We're not going to be meeting in person unless you want to run into the office at Mega Marcus.
And I would say we would also have the meeting location in Syracuse as well.
Have one in Syracuse, yeah.
But
Well,
then
a lot of us will meet in Syracuse.
We will have a hybrid option.
Okay.
I don't know. But Lord willing.
If you can't, you can come in from Jefferson. Well, we're gonna plan for that date, the 16th, and contact Erica and see what she thinks. And even if you can get online for the, see what we can make out. But anything else, anyone? Thank you all for coming. It has been enjoyable. Great to see everybody in person again, be able to talk, and meeting is adjourned.
Well, sit around for the finger. That's it, and gone.